So let's talk about Surah Al-Ikhlas. It's one of the shortest chapters in the Quran, and for sure one of the most recited. We all know it. But what if I told you that within these 4 short verses lies a power and a depth that many of us, well, we might be missing completely?
Come on, you know this scene. We've all been there, right? You're in a rush, you need to pray, and you think, okay, I'll just recite Al-Ikhlas. It's quick. It's become this convenient shortcut, a way to get our prayers done fast. And while that's a common habit, it's a world away from what this chapter originally meant.
You see, you've got these 2 totally different perspectives. For us, today, it can often just be a quick recitation. But if you rewind the clock and look at the first Muslims, the Prophet's companions, for them, this wasn't a shortcut. No way. It was a declaration. It was a core piece of their identity.
And nothing shows this more powerfully than the story of Bilal ibn Rabah. I mean, think about this. He's being brutally tortured in the middle of the desert, a heavy boulder crushing his chest, and what does he repeat over and over? Not a long prayer, not a plea for help. He says, Ahadun Ahad, the one, the central message of this very surah. For Bilal, these words were his strength, his defiance, his entire faith, all in that one moment of unbelievable pain.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How did a chapter that we sometimes breeze through become so powerful that it was a literal battle cry for the first believers? Well, to get that, you have to understand the world these verses were revealed to.
Let's paint a picture of 7th century Arabia. It was a wild marketplace of beliefs. Mecca itself was literally filled with idols for every occasion. In the wider region, Christians were talking about God having a son, and in so many other faiths, gods were basically superhumans. They had parents, they had kids, they had arguments. You could carve them out of stone or paint them on a wall.
And into this chaotic mix comes Islam, with this radically different message. So, after Surah Al-Kafirun came down, the one that draws a clear line, you have your religion and I have mine, people got really curious. They started coming to the Prophet Muhammad and asking point blank, okay, so describe this God of yours. Tell us about the Allah you're calling us to.
And these questions, they were coming from everyone. The pagans in Mecca wanted to know, is he made of gold? Silver? The Jewish and Christian communities had their own questions. Does he have a family tree? Parents? Children? Is Jesus his son? They were essentially asking for a divine resume. They wanted the specifics. Now the answer to this barrage of questions didn't come in some long, dense theological book. It came in these 4 short, incredibly elegant verses. This was it. The complete, final, definitive answer that addressed every single one of those queries that were being thrown at this new faith. To really get the function of this chapter, I want you to imagine something. Let's use an analogy. Picture a woman who gets a beautiful gold necklace from her mother-in-law on her wedding day. She's told it's a priceless family heirloom, pure 24-karat gold, passed down for generations. So she treasures this necklace, wears it proudly, and when her own son gets married, she passes it down to her daughter-in-law with the exact same story. For generations, this family is convinced they have this incredible treasure. But then, one day, they hit hard times. They decide they need to sell it. They take it to a jeweler, and he performs a simple test. And then he delivers the devastating news. The necklace they believed was pure gold was actually just brass, a fake.
So how did the jeweler know in an instant what this family didn't figure out for generations? He used a touchstone. A touchstone is this piece of dark, hard stone. Jewelers rub a piece of metal, like gold, against it. The color of the streak it leaves behind tells them instantly if it's real and how pure it is. It's the ultimate, foolproof test for authenticity.
And that, right there, is the true purpose of this surah. Surah Al-Ikhlas is the touchstone of faith. These 4 verses are the ultimate test. They are the criteria you can rub any belief, any idea about God against, to see if it's pure and authentic. So let's run the test, verse by verse.
Okay, test number 1. The first verse says, Allah is Ahad. Now the Arabic here is super important. The word for the number 1 is Wahid, but the Quran uses Ahad, and Ahad means uniquely one, incomparably one, indivisibly one. It can't be made of parts, it can't have partners. This one single word immediately rejects any idea of a trinity, a pantheon of gods, anything that compromises absolute singular oneness.
Test number 2. The second verse calls Allah as-Samad, the sustainer, the self-sufficient. This is huge. It means that all of creation, everything, depends entirely on Him for its existence. But He depends on nothing. He has no needs whatsoever. This one attribute rejects 2 massive ideas. One, atheism, the idea the universe just runs itself, and 2, any idea of a God who needs our worship or our offerings or anything from us.
The third test is a straight-up, direct answer to all those questions about a divine family tree. He has never had offspring, nor was he born. It's so clear, so unambiguous. It completely dismisses any belief system, any mythology that gives God parents or children. Done.
And finally, just in case there were any loopholes, any other ideas people might come up with, the 4th verse slams the door shut. And there is none comparable to him. That's it. You can't compare him to anything. Not a king, not a superhero, not a force of nature. He is utterly, completely unique and beyond our limited comprehension. That's the final test.
Now, you've probably heard the saying from the Prophet Muhammad that reciting Surah Al-Ikhlas is like reciting 1/3 of the Quran. But what does that actually mean? Well, scholars explained the Quran's message can be broadly split into 3 main themes. 1, laws and rulings, how to live. 2, stories and history, lessons from the past. And 3, Tawheed, the core concept of God's absolute oneness. Surah Al-Ikhlas is the perfect, concentrated, crystal-clear summary of that entire third of the Quran. It's the essence of Tawheed.
So what do we do with this? How does it change things for us today? Well, first, we stop seeing it as a shortcut and start reciting it with understanding. And second, we can actually use it as a tool. When you're feeling anxious, when you're worried about the future, remember As-Samad, the self-sufficient, the one everything depends on. It's a reminder that our job is to just do our best, and the results, well, they're with the one who needs nothing and controls everything. It becomes a mental checklist to keep our own faith pure.
Which brings us right back to that jeweler's shop. For years, that family held on to something they thought was priceless. But when it was finally put to the test, it turned out to be fake. This surah, these 4 verses, they are our touchstone. And it leaves us with a really personal, really profound question we all have to ask ourselves: when my belief is rubbed against this touchstone, is the faith I hold so dear pure gold, or is it just brass?